Before we begin today, this video isn't academic research or clinical advice. This series is personal exploration. I'll be pulling from my own experiences and adding a few metaphors to try to make sense of everything. If anything here resonates with you, that's great. But if not, just take what's useful and leave the rest. But to be clear, if you are struggling with depression or mental health, it's best that you seek the help of a qualified therapist or doctor, of which I am not. So, with that out of the way, let's jump in. Not what you were expecting. That's okay. You weren't expecting a cartoon character to come jumping out to talk to you about nihilism. I get it. But all I ask is that you embrace the absurd a little bit and stick with me. My name's Atlas, and I have decided to do this little video series as I've been reflecting a lot on the topics we're going to be talking about. And I've been struggling to actually get a video out, and I've just been kind of like stuck in like creative anxiety where, I kind of sound like I have a cold. Maybe I should wait. Oh, well, I didn't pick up on that topic, and I didn't consider that topic, and maybe I should talk about this, and I shouldn't have talked about that. And so you end up never putting anything out. So I'm done with that now. I'm just going to put it out there and hope you all don't kill me. So here we go. This is my series on the Cradle of Meaning, and we're going to be talking about nihilism a lot. And so I think a good place to start off is talking about what is nihilism. So it's not just some person like claiming like, no, nothing matters, man. So like, just do whatever you want, bro. Like, who cares about society? Like, we're all gonna die anyway. Like, that's kind of like the stereotypical like beach guy vibe of nihilism. But I think a better place to start would be like the dictionary definition of nihilism. And it goes as follows. It's the rejection of all religious and moral principles in the belief that life is overall meaningless. So you reject the pre-imposed morals and values that society and the institutions in society have placed out for you, and you say, it's all meaningless, it's all pointless, like there's no point to any of it. And to be honest with you, that definition is like the very little nub tip end of the iceberg. It's like so much deeper than that. My look into nihilism was a rabbit hole. It's this highly complex idea, and it has like many variations of it. And to be honest with you, it went back farther than even I could ever imagine. Like going back to some of the oldest written works where like in certain like fictional epics written way back, the first ones we could find, people were claiming like, what's the point of anything then? So we know that this idea has been with us for like thousands and thousands of years. And I could easily get bogged down with you in like hours and hours of analysis and go into like the entirety of nihilism. But that would make this video lengthy. Hey, future me, like, how did we do? Lengthier? Probably, eh? Or this is probably going to turn into a multiple part series. I'm guessing. Thanks for putting up with me, future me. So, given for like expediency and like as it stands for now, I'm just not attracted to nihilism as a belief system. I may explore it more later, but as a belief system, it doesn't appeal to me to like live my life as a nihilist. But if you would like to learn more about nihilism and what it means, I'm going to link to another YouTuber. I never asked them, but I feel like they wouldn't mind. They're called Unsolicited Advice, and they're a super smarty. Like they went to university for philosophy. They like joke and say they read books for a living, right? Like this is what they do. And so you can get into their like lengthy video and lengthy videos, I actually think, about nihilism, and you will come out with a much better understanding than what I would offer when it comes to like the philosophical belief system of nihilism. So feel free to hit the link down in the description and, tell them I said hi. But for my own purposes, probably just going to breeze past nihilism as a belief system. And we're going to use it kind of like for my own specific ideas that I've come up with. And in this, we'll kind of be dealing more with moments of nihilism and existential crisis. Periods of life where you feel like there's no point to anything. Or you ask what the point of anything is and find less incentive to engage in work and community. And, we see this shift happening today as people feel less incentivized by the workforce and the standard path to success that was laid out by previous generations, go to school, get a job and a family and a house and retire and be happy. This was the well-trodden road for the longest time, and it's falling apart, and people are just simply not interested in it. And we can see that especially with Gen Z and Gen Alpha. They just, even if they have the opportunities in front of them, they're like, meh, I'm just not, just doesn't appeal to me. So I know I might be breaking some rules here by just breezing past nihilism as a philosophical way of life, but I ask you to hear me out. So, to be clear, moments of nihilism is something that I'm focusing on. Like the philosophical way of life of nihilism and nihilistic depression are two separate things. Nihilistic depression can lead to the nihilistic way of life, if I'm saying that, or nihilism as a philosophical belief system, but they're not the same. They're very closely related, but they're not the same. One can lead to the other, but one is not the other. So, did I help clarify this, or did I just make it worse? I'm trying my best here. But I guess there's one other thing to get out of the way if we're going to talk about nihilism as a feeling and moments of nihilism and nihilistic depression, is making this distinction between depression as the chemical issue, depression as in general depression that we all feel, and nihilistic depression. So chemical depression is something that's chemically happening in your brain that's stopping you from being happy. I am not referring to this whatsoever at all. That is extremely difficult to deal with, and it's often something that leaves people feeling hopeless as they can't control it. They're facing an issue chemically that is forcing depression upon them, and that can only be described as hell. So, my heart goes out to those people, and I hope they find the support they need and hopefully the proper therapies to help them work with it, be it medication or talking to someone, but we're not dealing with that here. Now, general depression, in my opinion, you're entering the realm of my opinion, is usually what I would indicate as a lack of cognitive push. You're stuck. You're stuck. And you have this sort of feeling of giving in to the pointless nature. You see no reason to continue forward. You're stuck in one spot and everything feels gray, muted, and motionless. Now, in my opinion, you're still in my opinion, this is my world. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. In nihilistic depression, in my opinion, is usually followed by this sense of aggravation and cognitive turmoil. You begin to ask, what's the point? But you tend to want to find an answer. But it's in the question itself that proves that it's not just general depression or chemical depression. You're trying to find the meaning. What is or was the point? You're struggling with meaning. You're groping around in the dark, trying to find it. While others made it a lifestyle and a way of life, the average person tends not to subscribe to the lifestyle. So, to put it in a sentence, depression is you are stuck in the idea that there is no point, while moments of nihilism or nihilistic depression results in what is the point. So there is no point versus what is the point. You'll still think initially there is no point. But in a nihilistic depression, you tend to progress out of that. Or at least how I'm defining it. It's momentary hopelessness and pointlessness, but it's usually followed by the question. So let's consider potential moments in your life, maybe to give some personal ideas on when you might face nihilistic depression. So consider times in your life when you suddenly hit a wall, right? You put a lot of effort into something and now it's over. The one thing that comes to mind for me is high school, especially if you had no clear path out of high school. You're just and you're like, I graduated, and they're like, hey, go do the things now. And you're like, what things? I gotta go get a job. I don't want to flip burgers. Why don't you go get another education? You're like, so I did all that education just to get another education. And you're like, so what was the point of all that then? Is there any point to anything I'm doing here? Or is this just all some pre-programmed game where I don't get to be in control? You face this moment where it all seems kind of pointless. You kind of get into this low energy state. You're sort of down and you're you're just listing through life. You haven't decided what you want to do after high school, or it's that moment where you're laying with Cheeto dust all over you and you're simply just existing, but you're generally unsatisfied. While your drives are low and your social battery is weak, you're just unsatisfied with this living. You're in a depression, but maybe it's called an existential depression. I don't know. Maybe you can give me your comments on that. I call it a nihilistic depression, but it's temporary nihilistic depression. Keep following me on later videos why I don't think it's an existential depression. The hint is because you can't have existentialism unless you have nihilism first, in my opinion. But either way, you might face other situations where a community you were a part of just sort of petered out and lost support, or maybe you're continuing in something that you've kind of seen to the full. You've discovered everything you want to about it, but now you're just doing it for financial reasons. And I think this is the one that hits home the most. Is that term living to work, where there's two kinds of people that live to work, right? There's those people who can't make enough, so they go to work to afford to go to work, and they're just stuck in this loop of working to live for work. And then there's those other people that are financially successful and they have all the things they need, but they have no real direction and they just keep going to work because that's what they have. And that's it. But it doesn't hold any meaningful value to them whatsoever at all. And it's basically at this point, you see it you're at a dead end and everything you've committed to up to this point feels pointless. Now, some people, you could apply this whole view to the entire universe. Oh, I had a job and it got phased out and now my education stands for nothing. It's all pointless. You know what? Everything's pointless. The universe is pointless, whether we live or die, or this person dies or that person gets medicated. Pointless. It's all pointless. But I see this as taking that momentary period in your life and just taking it to the farthest reachable point that you can as a belief system, which is why I don't subscribe to nihilism as a belief, a philosophical way of life. I see it as a momentary period instead of a full-blown way of life. Because oftentimes in my experience, and I don't know if you can say that you've ever experienced this, did you ever notice that sometime after you're feeling this pointlessness in life, suddenly something exciting just kind of comes along? It's an exciting prospect in a field you've never looked into before. And you find this new topic, skill, or community, etc., compelling. and you suddenly are whisked away on a new adventure, and you go and you discover new things and you get fully embroiled in something until that peters out. So I guess my question to you in this then, and to end this first video, would be, would this new discovery that you made have been possible if you were still wrapped up in your previous pursuits? If you hadn't had gone to that point where meaning was washed away, how could you ever have put something new in its place? And if you never put anything new and you never have that washing away of things that are meaningful, you get stuck in a nihilistic depression where you're only doing things because they're either required of you, you have to, or you have nothing else. You go to work because you have work or you need to work. So at some point, sometimes you just get bored of things or whatever. I'm trying to put this as many different ways as possible to really appeal to a broad audience. But this is where I'm gonna end this video with that question. And I'll restate it. Would new discoveries be possible with you still wrapped up in previous pursuits? In the next video, we're going to be discussing a very notable psychologist who actually touched on this. He's my hero, so you can already sense the bias there. But we're going to be touching on his viewpoints of meaninglessness, and then we'll be getting into something called the Dark Sea Journey, or as other references have called it, the Dark Night of the Soul, and explore that. So hopefully you guys stick around for the second video, and I look forward to seeing you there. Please give me your thoughts, what you think about nihilism in general. Maybe you are a nihilist and you have a compelling argument as to why you think it works. I'm open to hearing everything. So I really appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye.